All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Tripp Smokepit. Tonight, I got one of my Instagram buddies on here, Steve Caldwell. He's a Bookwyrm Army vet. And before the show, we were talking about how stupid the military is with helicopters. So let's get going with that.
There's a little truth to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, fucking, there's a lot of pranks and shit you can play with them too. Like, I knew a guy who's a Black Hawk pilot, right? Army dude. Or I guess they would have been warrant officers at the time. But anyway, friggin', for whatever reason, he had a squad of Marines in the back, and they were on the runway, and they're, getting ready to take off. And he convinces the Marine platoon sergeant that the Marines have to get out and push the helicopter to pop the clutch because there's a problem with the transmission. So these fucking 18 Marines, or however the fuck many are, get out, start pushing this helicopter down the fucking runway, and he, starts getting the fucking blades moving a little bit faster. All right, everybody, get the fuck back in, get the fuck back in. And then they fucking take off. And actually, I'm sorry, I didn't know the pilot. I knew the fucking one of the dudes in the back, and fucking he was saying this shit, and it was like, you fell for that. Okay.
I can appreciate that. We had our fair share of that kind of stuff.
Right.
There we go.
Yeah. Iffy.
I do remember. We had our share of pranks. We had to get your hydraulics. You have to pressurize your hydraulics. So we had a big handle to the hydraulic pump, so you get your initial hydraulics started. So we would actually get the aircraft started, get the APU started, and we'd tell these guys to get the engine started. We'd run back to this handle and start cranking on it like the aircraft's not going to get going if we don't start cranking on it. And I've seen a couple second lieutenants just usually the enlisted guys, they take it in stride. But these second lieutenants are just so easy to prank.
I fell for that once. So on the CH-53s, the Stallions, apparently when they refuel in the air and they switch whatever tanks they're coming into from, something happens when they detach from that hose and they drop like 100 feet, and they just all do that. I didn't know they didn't do that. But anyway, I'm in the back of one of these things. The thing falls like 100 feet, way the fuck up. Nobody that works on the fucking bird is freaking out, except for like one dude. He's like, starts fucking like, looks like he's got a fuse blown. And he runs over and he points at me and he says, get up. And he comes over here and he moves this panel, and there's a lever he tells me to fucking like keep pumping. And apparently I didn't know this at the time, but apparently all that lever does is if it's landed, it stops the landing gear from turning, so it acts like a mechanic chalk. But we're however the fuck feet in the air. We just did a bunch of this, and I'm like, we're gonna die if I stop this. Found out later I was pissed, but
there's all kinds of pranks you, and then there's just the kind of stuff that's just, people are just stupid. Like, everybody, of course, like anything else in the military, safety briefs.
Right. You
give the safety brief and you tell people, okay, don't walk at the front of a helicopter. Don't walk at the front of a Chinook. Don't walk at the ass end of a Huey or a Black Hawk. Common sense. 9 times out of 10, here comes some second lieutenant trying to get his head chopped off towards the front of the aircraft.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. Is like, I would imagine, at least hope, that when they designed the fucking helicopter, that the blades wouldn't come down far enough to chop off your head. But that's not something I'd want to risk.
It's one of those things when they first start turning, they are low enough to catch you right in the head.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that.
Right, but second lieutenant level.
Oh God, yeah. I got a degree in basket weaving, so I'm in charge of all you motherfuckers. Thanks, God, I guess. Although it's actually funny, friggin', there is a reason for that, and it goes back to like 1600s, like England, like why you have to have a degree to go into like in the officer corps, because like originally way back in the day you had to like buy your commission, and to do that you had to like also own land and be educated and all that stuff, and then all the filthy plebes would go be the enlisted person.
They were still doing that I think they were doing that into the mid 1800s.
Yeah.
I know that's how our army was operated a lot of.
Yeah. I don't know when
regiment.
Yeah, I don't know when us or the Brits cut that off, but I mean, like that layover, carries over from back in the day, or I guess that system does.
I think once they went away from the volunteer regiments.
Yeah, because I know like in the Civil War, a lot of units would like they'd form out of like a town and like, hey, listen, everybody in this town is in the same unit. Elect your officers, and then a lot of officers be like, I'll buy you boots if you put me in charge. So they're like, okay, that guy's gonna give us boots. He's in charge. Got it.
That's how unconditional surrender Grant ended up a colonel. You went to West Point. You should be the unit commander.
Yeah.
That turned out okay for the United States.
Yeah. Well, friggin', what is it? I think Stonewall Jackson was at West Point too, wasn't he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Stonewall Jackson was, although when the Civil War started, he was a instructor at the Citadel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But he was a Point graduate. So was Lee. So was pretty much all those guys back then were.
Yeah. I was reading something interesting about Stonewall Jackson not too terribly long ago, and apparently that dude was like extremely socially awkward, like probably had narcolepsy and was probably like had Asperger's and was just like a weird guy to be around. And then the reason that they put him in a teaching position was because they kind of wanted him out of the army, but they couldn't like kick him out of the army because they didn't have like a real reason to. And then the war kicked off, and they're like, "Well, we need officers. Let's put you in charge." And then like he, I guess, flipped his idiot switch off and then would just go like wreck shit. And then like as soon as they were out of combat, he'd be like, I'm a nap. All right, I'll see you guys.
Well, yeah, oh yeah, he was an excellent general. Although the funny part, because I've got a lot of Civil War books, he got lost a lot.
Yeah,
they got lost a lot. He was
late
to several battles because they got lost.
Wasn't one of his big things though, or one of the reasons that he was as successful as he was, is because he trained his troops to move faster than everybody else, like on force marches?
Oh, he would force march. He'd force march the hell out of them.
Yeah, well, I would imagine doing it that much.
He was a not one step back general.
Yeah,
I mean, Lee had some really good subordinate generals.
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily. The problem with Lee was he would set up an overall plan, but he never adjusted during the battles.
Yeah, you need to be able to improvise, adapt, overcome.
That's what cost him on Gettysburg. He just passively stood by and let things happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
have you ever been up to Gettysburg?
I haven't been to Gettysburg. I've been to a few battlefields. Because I was at Fort Campbell, so I went to Fort Donaldson quite a few times.
Gettysburg now is, well, I don't know about like right now, but like pre-COVID at least, is a real fun place to go because like I guess if you wanted to take like an in-depth look at the battlefield, you could stay there for ever, I guess, but you could see the whole thing in about a day. But the town that it's at now, like they know that they're a tourist town. So like during the day, they got all the like bring your kids touristy shit, and then like the nightlife is like, all right, so you want a Confederate bar? We got it. You want a Union bar? You got it. You want just like a regular bar? We got it. You want like a clubby club nightlife type fucking loud music? We got it. It's and they're all like right next to each other too. It's pretty fun.
Well, that sounds like fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, friggin' the reason I know you is because you're big into book reviewing. Tell us about that. How'd you get into that?
Well, I've been a reader my whole life. I'm the kind of person that would go out, end up stuck at NTC and have a bag full of books because I had nothing else better to do when I wasn't flying or pulling guard duty or something.
Yeah.
So I just go through book after book after book, and I met some authors online once social media really kicked off.
Yeah.
I met some authors online, and I had some really good people that kind of got me into indie stuff, much more independent stuff like you do, and not so much traditional publication anymore. So a friend of mine, I would review his books, and he said, we should do something about that. And I was like, well, I don't know. What do you do? Maybe you should start a blog. I'm like, I know nothing about that. So I'm like, okay. So I kind of looked it up. I said, I could do that. I mean, I write the reviews on Amazon. They're 3 pages long. So I started my own blog. And in fact, this is 5 years.
Nice.
This month is 5 years. I'm having a big giveaway. I'm having a bunch of signed books I'm giving away. And so that's kind of nice. Yeah, I think people will enjoy that.
That'd be fun. What was the first book you like reviewed? I guess like on your blog then.
It was actually that was actually traditional published. It was good lord. It was a whoa, I'm not stupid computer. Sorry, my computer is. Let me look it up because it has been a while, and my memory at 50 is shot.
All right, fair enough.
I can tell you real quick because I got a phone here.
Yeah, it's weird. We have this nightmare box we get to hold in our hand that, you know, like grants us the access to the wealth of human knowledge, and we use it to be dicks on the internet to strangers and look at cats.
Right. Well, you know, puppy videos too. So. Well,
yeah, there we go.
As my kids want to tell me every day, there are puppy videos, Dad. It's not all just cats and porn. Have you noticed that since that got big, the phone screen started getting bigger again?
Yeah, because it used to be friggin' all right, my phone's smaller than yours, and then it's like, yeah, but like I can watch shit on mine.
Yes. Oh, okay, there it is. It's a book called The Silent Hall by a guy named Ennis Dolkert.
Never heard of it. What's it about?
Yeah, it's about these kids they end up taking a trip to the mainland. They live on an island, and they're all getting sent to the mainland for different things. And as they're leaving, the island is struck down by the gods.
Okay.
The gods are pissed, and they just destroy their island. So they're the sixth last people from their island left in the world. And they end up going on adventures and trying to stop the gods from destroying the rest of the world.
So, the Aeneid.
Yeah, something like that. Now, as we all know, teenagers are who I trust to save the world.
Yeah.
As every social media platform wants to tell you, children are the future.
Right
now.
Yes, them.
You know, it's like we should let 16-year-olds vote. Really? I remember when I was like 16, I should not have been allowed to drive a car, let alone vote. Yeah.
There's a lot of shit they let you do a little bit too early, but then like at the same time, they won't let you drink until you've been an adult for 3 years. It's like, come on, man. It's like one of the perks.
Well, I had it a little weird though, because when I was 19, I joined the Army when I was 19. My company commander in AI, once I got out of basic for AIT, said, "Listen, if you're old enough to wear the uniform, you're old enough to drink. As far as I'm concerned, if you get popped by the MPs, do not do something stupid. Do not get in a fight, or don't be out fighting. Don't fight the MPs. They'll bring you back. I'll look like I'm gonna rip your ass, and then send you to bed." And then I got sent to Korea instead of the Gulf War, which I am so happy about, because I did not want to go. They're handing out orders. You're going to Korea, you're good. Fort Campbell, enjoy the desert.
Yeah. We go hang out in Saudi Arabia for a year for 3 days of fucking airport.
They basically sat them in the unit I would have been in. They basically sat them in an airport garage at the Riyadh airport, in the parking garage for 6 months until the war kicked off.
Yeah, and that was before air conditioning existed. And I don't know if you've been to Saudi Arabia. It's hotter than shit. And despite it being in the desert, it's also stupid humid.
Yeah, I've heard this. And then they had, of course, they had problems with the locals because we had female soldiers. And they're being told, well, your females must be covered. And they're basically told to go pound sand. We're here to save your country. They're soldiers. They're going to dress like soldiers dress.
Yeah, kiss my ass.
That's pretty much what they're told. And they left them alone. They just stayed the hell out of that garage.
Yeah.
It's not like they were allowed to go anywhere anyways. So here I am, 19 in Korea, turned 20 there. They don't have a drink. If you can reach the bar, I know the drink age is 18, but if you can reach the bar, they'll serve you.
Right.
So I started drinking in Korea when I was 19. Luckily, I got all the heavy drinking out of my life while I was there and couldn't drive.
And before the internet was there to display all the stupidity that you did.
There's still plenty of pictures. It's just not on the internet.
Exactly. Now, I was in Korea for like, I think 28 days. We spent most of it up at the Rodriguez fucking complex. And then we got like 4 days off in Seoul. And I barely remember it. I remember I ate an endangered fish. And then me and my buddies wanted to eat dog because, you know, Koreans eat dogs. Let's go find it. We found it, by the way. We had to go to the fucking hood to get it, but we found it. And then there was a lot of soju.
Yeah, there's always a lot of soju in Korea. I drank a lot of soju and don't remember some things at all.
Yeah, well, it was funny because before we went on Libo, our sergeant major gave us a map of like the area we were in, and there was all these like big red marks where we weren't allowed to go because here's where they serve underage people, here's where the hookers are, here's where the casinos are. Don't go to these places and don't drink soju. It's like, so you gave me a map
Of all the places to go,
and you told me the best thing to drink. Okay, sergeant major, like I'm not saying you're stupid, but you might have made an error.
well, it was funny since I was there as a permanent partier for our hardship tour.
Yeah,
they came in and they have this safety brief when you get there. They give you a safety brief for the year. They tell you this is what you can expect. Let's see, fraternization, don't. And they made sure they told us that they'd already relieved one company commander, a sergeant major, and a first sergeant for fraternization and black marketing. Fraternization for the captain, black marketing for the sergeant major and the first sergeant. And sent them off to Leavenworth for the black marketing.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is black marketing like as far as the military is concerned?
Well, as far as I don't know how it is now, but back then, electronics were ridiculously expensive there. Even the ones that were like Samsung,
oh, okay,
Star, the Korean brands.
Yeah,
and so we'd buy them. So you could buy them on post at the PX, take them off post, and sell them for 4 times what they're worth, and they'd think that's a deal. You could, and the other one was liquor. Because you go over to Class 6 and buy a bottle of Jack for $8 and go off and sell it. You can sell it downtown for $35.
Okay, yeah, that's called something else now, and I forget what it is, but that's now one of those things where they're not going to hit you with it unless you do something else stupid, and they're just going to tack it on because they're just trying to pummel you with shit because they hate you.
I mean, I had quite a few friends actually get in trouble and get kicked out of the Army for that. Lower enlisted, they don't normally go after you, but you get a general discharge, which sucks. But I know a couple people that got some senior guys got really in trouble for it because you're supposed to know better, apparently.
Right.
They don't expect a PFC to know better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know what PFC stands for, right?
What?
Pointless chevron.
Well, remember, a PFC in the Army is an E3, so you're supposed to be you're still not responsible at E3.
Yeah.
Because I've yet to figure out why they don't just ditch that and go to more towards the Marine Corps rank thing.
Yeah, I mean, because like in the Marines, it'll take you forever to pick up corporal or E4, but like you're still expected to do all that shit as an E3. You just don't have the NCO status.
Well, the Army still has the one specialist rank, which I've seen some people talking on one of the meme pages on Instagram, talking about doing reforms for infantry, and talking about bringing back the specialist ranks for the military, so you get the subject matter experts as opposed to, some guys just don't want to be in charge of people. They just want to do their job.
Right.
I was that guy. I hated being in charge of people because do I care if PFC numbnuts over there in my squad is completely ate up and I get in trouble because I can't keep his ate up ass from screwing everything up?
Yeah, and it's even better when you're the same rank and it's your fault. It's like, but I can't actually tell him to do anything.
Yeah, I'm his squad leader, but I'm the same rank. So what do you want me to do? And I was always in doing jobs outside my rank. Right. I was a unit training NCO for a while. I was an E4. I should not be in charge of training for a unit. Hey, sir, you've got to do PT tests. Sure, we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah. Thanks, specialist. I'll get right on that.
Exactly, because I don't remember doing officer PT tests. I do remember getting paperwork from officer PT tests, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had our day. Yeah, a lot of pencil whipping.
Yeah,
friggin' they got their special new PT test.
Yeah, they friggin' the Army keeps changing theirs a lot. I know that the Marine Corps has changed theirs in the last like maybe 5-10 years, but before that, from what I understand, it was about the same since like the 90s. And
they had the same thing forever. I mean, the Army was just push-ups, sit-ups, and 2-mile run.
yeah,
I mean, the Marine Corps had push-ups, sit-ups, sit-ups. I think you guys had the swim.
No, we had
the pull-ups.
So it was a run, crunches, and pull-ups. And apparently there was this big controversy in the late 90s when they changed it from sit-ups to crunches, but I wasn't there for that. So, and then there is a swim thing, but it's once a year. It's a separate event. And then if you don't ever do it, then like nobody really gets on your ass about it. Kind of like the gas chamber. It's like you're supposed to do it twice a year, but if you don't ever do it, that's not exactly uncommon.
I think I set one gas chamber up, and the turnout was pathetic. So I'm like, okay, I set it up, but that's as far as I'm willing to go with it. And I don't think I ever did one beyond that.
Now, see, I used to be a dick about that though, because what I would do is I would take a open pack of cigarettes in with me to the gas chamber, and then not smoke them, but then I'd have a different pack that'd be smoking out of later, like after I like took a shower, cleaned up and whatever. Somebody come up and ask for a smoke, and I'd give them one. The gas chamber.
Oh my god! Oh, I bet you were popular.
Oh yeah, no, it was great.
Everybody likes the Joker though.
Yeah,
we had some good ones. Did you guys have any like favorite pranks you like to pull on the noobs?
Well, I mean, it's weird because like they've been cracking down on that a lot for like dumb shit too. Because like I understand the stuff where it's like, somebody gets jump wings or something, and then they like punch it in your chest until it's like stuck in your bone or whatever. It's like, all right, I get why that's bad. But like if I send someone to I don't know, Supply to get ID 10T forms, apparently that's just as bad now.
What?
Or, yeah. Or if I send someone to the air wing to get fallopian tubes, that's also just as bad. But
oh, good lord, we had all kinds of stuff. We had two guys I came into Korea with looking for the basement of the hangar for 3 hours. Well, in Korea, the water table is about 5 feet over your head. They were looking for a while.
I'm sure there are hangars that have basements, though.
Oh, in Germany, we didn't though.
Fair enough.
And we had some other ones. We'd ask for they asked for a guy to go get 100 feet of flight line. Which is funny because they had these portable pads. They had these almost snap together pads you could make flight line out of. Yeah. Temporary flight line, so you could improve an area. And they were just stacked out by the flight line. So I just pointed out there, hey, they're right out there. Like, you are no fun.
There was one time we had to go do excuse me, like maintenance checks on the Humvees, and to make sure the lights work, all that shit. Well, the lights wouldn't come on this one, so we we're going to take the lens off to make sure that the bulb was good. But when we took the lens off, a bunch of fluid came out, and it wasn't water. It was like some type of oily shit. It's like somebody goddamn put fluid in the goddamn headlights.
Blinker fluid.
Yeah. Somebody fucking fell for this and did their fucking job, by the way. Completed the task.
Oh, good lord. The box of grid squares is always a good one. Because there are creative ways to get back at that one, though. I saw the guy get the box of grid squares. He came back about an hour later with a box of grid squares. He took a terrain map, cut up the squares, dumped it on the table. Here you go.
Nice. Did he find the Kim light batteries while he was there?
We didn't actually have that one. We had a few others, but the bucket of rotor wash. It is. There actually is an aircraft wash. You could have called it rotor wash. But you have to be. Yeah, the noobs don't usually pick up on that. The once you make E4, you've been through all these jokes before,
right?
So you'll still see people trying to pull it on the guys that are like E4 but have come from another unit. They've got all the tricks down.
Yeah, no, when I was in Quantico, I bought an old Corvette, and I got vanity fucking license plates because in Virginia, like, they're not any more expensive than just regular ones, so like everybody had vanity plates, but I had the prick E5 plates driving around fucking Quantico, and people were like, does that stand for People's Republic of China? And I'm like, Wow. Wow. You didn't even get hazed as a fucking boot. Got it. All right. I'm officially so old that I'm making hazing jokes that people don't even understand anymore.
Oh, good. And some things some things will be timeless, and some things just like, what are you talking about? I get that. My son-in-law was a MP, and he was in Iraq, 2000. Let's see, deployed a couple times, so 2007 and 2009.
Yeah.
And so he'd come back and tell me some stuff, and it's like, I understand about 80% of what you're saying. Some of the stuff is new, and some of it is just geared towards your MOS. So,
Yeah, it's like there's too many TLAs in there. What's a TLA? A 3-letter acronym. Really? Okay, so you got so many goddamn of them that you had to make a new word.
Yeah. Exactly. And we'd always go by that. You're always, hey, go grab the 55, and the people are like, what are you talking about? Oh, the manual, the TDMs.
Fucking I got into an argument with somebody one time because I went looking for Humvee keys, and I was like, hey, I need the Humvee keys. And then some fucking first sergeant was like, what do you mean the Humvee keys? Humvees don't have keys. I'm like, yeah, they do. And then he's like, I think someone who sent you to do this? I'm like, I'm looking for him for, whatever platoon that needs these things. And he's like, take me to who told you to do this, because I think you're getting hazed right now and I need to correct this. So it's like, all right. So we go back, and then on the way, like, it's like, hey, so the Humvee, like, they're not keys to start it, but you can put padlocks on the door handles that lock them that you do need keys for. And then he's like, oh.
Yeah. What do you say to that?
I don't know.
Although I was watching a movie about a month ago, and the guy jumps in the military Humvee and throws the keys in the ignition. I'm like, what? Did they make a modification while I was gone?
No.
I mean, the last thing we need is Humvees with keys, because the entire fleet would be down.
Well, speaking of shit, things get wrong, and books, friggin', I think you'll find this humorous as a book reviewer, but I don't remember what it was. It was some detective fucking novel. I read it maybe a year or two ago, but like it was like from the 90s. But there was this like really intense scene, and somebody pulled out their Glock, and they were having this argument, and then they pulled the hammer back on the Glock to show that they were serious. And it's like, Glocks don't have hammers. Why did you write that into this book? But on that, do you ever run into stuff like that while you're reading for your reviews? Like, you're like, wow, that is insanely fucking wrong. Like, you could have Googled that. And an idiot author.
Oh, good Lord. I ran into one the other day that was like that. I mean, just so many things wrong. I mean, I read one, and this is just stuff you could have figured out. They're talking about flying they're talking about flying multiple people in an Apache up into the Andes. Inside the Apache, and I'm like, wait, what? What?
Well, I mean, because there's a possibility where, like this team that's going in is just super badass, and they just strap them to those little stub wings they got.
There is a way to do that, but this isn't what I was talking about. I think he was going for a Black Hawk and just got confused about it.
Yeah.
But, talking about the turret gun on a Apache. So, I mean, I know he's talking about Apache, but yeah, unless you're strapping them down, there is an spec ops insertion method for using an Apache, but that wasn't what they were talking about. I've run into a couple other things, but then I've run into some that have really well researched by people. Other than the fact, I know they haven't been anything other than maybe on it. I know they didn't crew it.
Yeah.
There's a guy, J.F. Holmes, writes really good mil sci-fi, and he did one with quite a bit of it with Chinooks in it, and he got all the stuff in it right.
Nice.
I mean, you can tell he did his research. I mean, I can't tell him he did the infantry stuff wrong because he was an infantryman.
Yeah.
So other than my general knowledge of what infantry does from talking to infantry guys, I mean, he got the stuff right, and he definitely got the Chinook stuff right.
Yeah, there is somebody that got stuff right. There's an author I like on Instagram. Her name is Michelle Packard. She wrote the Aesop stories, but it's kind of like the spy thriller type stuff.
Sure.
And there's this one scene where the main character Maddie is in a fist fight that was supposed to be a gunfight, but they got their guns knocked out of their hands, so they got to fisticuffs it. And the bad guy picks up her Colt 1911, and it doesn't shoot because he's not holding the grip the right way and doesn't engage the secondary safety. And it's like, that's a really interesting thing to write in that you wouldn't know unless you've been shooting that thing a lot and had a couple misfires. Good for you for writing that in.
Yeah, that does. I mean, it's always the little things like that that just add that little touch of reality to it versus, just make it up on the fly or.
Right.
How many times you've read something in there that's just like, you have obviously never done this in your life. I mean, I have a friend of mine who's an author, and he wasn't in the military, but he writes straight fantasy and science fiction anyway. So
yeah,
he doesn't write that in, but he's asked me some stuff about it, and he said, "Listen, I know this author, and he can't stand the guy. The guy is just one of those." This is what he says. He said he was in the spec ops community. So his books have operators that get sent through a portal to a fantasy world because, of course, they are. And, of course, they're better at everything than anybody there, including sword fighting. Now, granted, I was not in special forces, but I do know what goes into special force training, and sword fighting is not one of the things they teach.
No, that would be cool if, it was a guy with this, they get there and the guy's got a sword, so they have to, bayonet fight him. But if it's all right, nope, we're going to...
Broadswords, yeah. No.
Yes, we're going to be fencing now. Have at you.
I mean, I've taken fencing classes. I know this is not something you pick up overnight either. But first off, he's trying to pass himself off as a operator. You know the type.
Yeah.
Because as if there's something wrong with the service they did.
They were probably civil affairs, and they're like, well, technically that's special forces. It's like, yeah, okay.
No, you were in headquarters. You were in headquarters in S2 in intelligence. You never left the wire. I guarantee you.
To a recon unit. That doesn't mean you're in it.
Yes, exactly. You were in headquarters, and you looked at the after-action reports is what you did, Fobbit.
Yeah.
I mean, everything he said, I'd go through his stuff, and I could just parse out the stuff that's like, oh, you are such a fraud. I mean, civilians won't know the difference. Military always picks it out.
So I just now had an idea for a great military fantasy story, right? It's kind of sort of just going to plagiarize Lord of the fucking Rings, but it's going to take place in Iraq, and we're going to call it The Fobbit. Weak little S2 worker gets called out by whoever the wizard character is, right? To go on this grand adventure to steal ISIS's only working radio. Yeah, that.
Their only working radio and their 3 working rifles.
Yeah. And then every once in a while, he'll turn it on to hear if anything's on it. Just goes, I see you.
Well, there's a guy, Harry Carpenter, writes a series called Fubar.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically takes all his characters are just, Pogue clerks. They're the guys that work in S3 and S1, supply guys, that kind of stuff. Or, the computer geeks. And whatever, they're in their base, they're in their fob in Iraq, and they wake up and something's going on. The base is under attack, but it's monsters that are attacking. All the infantry guys are all dead already. So all of a sudden, these guys who the last time they picked up a rifle was to put it on their rack.
Yeah.
The only time they ever fired their rifles is at range quals.
Right.
All of a sudden, they're having to take a 240 and try and kill monsters with a 240 while not getting killed. And they're like, I went to an urban combat simulator once. And it's just funny watching regular, non-combat arms trying to do combat arms stuff.
You said that was Fubar by who?
Harry Carpenter.
That seems like something to check out.
The first book's hilarious. The characters, I know these guys. They're the kind of guys that work up a battalion.
Yeah.
You know, they have tents put up for them. They're not leaving the wire if their lives depend on it.
Long ago, an S1 clerk who lost your leave papers was forced into a life of desperate survival.
You know, the funny part about that is I married the battalion leaves and finance clerk.
Nice.
My first wife was a battalion leaves and finance clerk. My pay was never screwed up. And for some reason, I always had extra leave.
Huh. Weird how that works.
It's funny how often she lost that paperwork, though.
There was there was a guy in 29 Palms who got busted down. I think he went from E3 down to E1 because he was an admin guy and he hacked into the system to get himself promoted early. And then they didn't figure it out for like 2 years, right? And like they're like in the Marine Corps, at least if you're an E4, they're not supposed to bump you any down further than E3. They're just supposed to, unless it's like something they send you to the fucking brig for. But they're like, well, technically you didn't pick that up the right way, so yeah, you're going all the way down.
I mean, is there ever? I mean, at some point you're going to get Article 15. It's just going to happen for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's not when, if.
It's not if, it's just when. I mean, I knew some people that somehow managed to avoid that. I wish I could have.
Well, did you at least have a good time?
No, I had my wisdom teeth pulled. I was on quarters. They put me on staff duty anyways. So I'm here taking the pain pills for that because it hurt a lot.
Yeah.
That guy worked hard to get those teeth out. So I'm sitting here on this codeine and I'm passed out, and the first sergeant has to step over me in the morning when he comes in. So he's pissed about that. And then apparently I was supposed to strip the floors the night before, and the NCO in charge said, "Oh, you don't have to do that. Just buff them." So I'm trying to tell him, "Hey, he told me not to." Private? Like,
wrong.
Wrong answer. Yeah, and then they tried to get me for sexual harassment because I made a joke and a captain overheard it. I made a joke to a female soldier who was a friend of mine, and the captain overheard it, and she got all upset. Did you say that in front of your mother? I said, "Well, she doesn't speak very much English, but sure."
Well, actually, I heard it from my mom. So the cards are on your table, man.
Yeah, they tried to get me on that one, and she said they brought her in and said, "Do you want to press charges for what?"
Yeah,
it's just a joke. I said, I laughed. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, no. When I was getting out, I didn't get a haircut for like a month because fuck it. Anyway, I was sitting in the S1 and my first sergeant comes in and he starts chewing my ass because like I didn't shave that morning or the day before. I had like long ass hair and shit, and he's like, "Ah!" He's like, the dude's like yelling, and it's like, yeah, I can't do anything because like I'm still in. So I'm like, "Yep, yeah, okay, yeah, yes for sergeant, no for sergeant, all whatever." And then whatever corporal or sergeant comes over, says sign this, so I signed my fucking DD-214, and then fucking my first sergeant's like, "Fucking, we're gonna get to this right now." I'm like, "No, Dave, we're not." And he's like, "What'd you call me?" Dave? He's like, "Get the fuck off my base." I'm like, "I'm planning on it. I'm trying to do that right now. You're stopping me."
I had pretty good luck towards the end there with senior NCOs and officers. I mean, I was in aviation unit anyway, so we were extra heavy loaded with officers.
Yeah.
And for the most part, most of them were pretty cool. Had one captain who's kind of a dick and had a butter bar West Pointer that just scared the shit out of me. I mean, this is not the guy I wanted to fly in a helicopter.
Yeah. No,
especially in a mid-air emergency. Where's the airport? I don't know.
Well, don't you think that's something you should know? Yeah. No, but my last first sergeant fucking hated me because like I want to say like 3 or 4 months before I got out, the base general went to like every unit and every barracks and like asked everybody shit like without any of the staff or anybody junior officer wise to him around, and I was honest. Like I had to go talk to my company gunnery sergeant, then the first sergeant chewed my ass for a bit, and then the company commander chewed my ass for a bit, and then I went to get to see the sergeant major, and then I got an S1 audit, had to go weigh in. Then I talked to the battalion commander, and this is all in like 6 hours, but like, what, dude? I didn't think the fucking water machines were broke.
Yeah, they always wanted you to be honest, but no, they didn't.
No, not at all.
The last thing they want is honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Especially, and you had that. It seemed like you had a kind of a cool thing going.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I was Comcam, so I got to go fucking everywhere and see everything. And then for the most part, I didn't have to deal with everybody else's bullshit. But that is unavoidable at some level. But there was one guy, I fucking loved this guy, and by love this dude, like dude was a fucking giant fucking tool, but he'd look out for you. So it was like, I will take you being a dickhead if you're gonna have my back type shit, And I shit you not, this dude's name was Richard Head.
It was what?
His name was Richard Head, I swear to God. But anyway,
was he related to Michael Head, who is in my unit?
Anyway, fucking give me a second. Sorry, on ship, you can never find this guy if he wasn't in the fucking company office. So what I would do if I needed to like hunt this dude down is I would go stand in the hangar bay or just like any big open space area, and I just like slide my hands in my pockets. And like 45 seconds later, this dude would show up like fucking Batman. It's like, why the fuck are your goddamn hands in your pockets? I'm like, hey, Gunny, I've been looking for you. It's a good time.
Gunny bait.
It works, man.
Oh, I understand. And I don't know what it was. Every first sergeant and every sergeant major's got their pet peeve.
Yeah.
I mean, I had one sergeant major that didn't have any pet peeves. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
He took such good care of us, but he was a super combat superhero.
Yeah.
From way back in the NOM. I mean, his "I love me" wall looked like Audie Murphy.
Nice.
I mean, everything's shy of a CSM or Congressional Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
I mean, Silver Star, Bronze Star. I mean, that was in aviation. How the hell do you earn that?
I don't know, man. There's some weird stuff with aviation. Speaking of that, though, friggin' like, what is it? So, like, the Marines, sea, air, land, all that shit. Like, we got a pretty big, heavy, like, air component. But what I think's funny about it is Marine aviation is technically the Navy's, Army's, Air Force.
Every branch of aviation, I don't care what service it is, it's like the teenage brigade. You've got all this responsibility, but they don't really expect much of you.
Yeah, well, that's why you got to swing with the wing, man. They also always had the best food for some fucking reason.
Oh God, I wish we did.
Like even stateside, like I didn't get it. It's like, dude, it's the same fucking company. Like.
Our chow, I don't know what it was with every unit I was in Korea or the States. We had the worst chow halls every time. The cooks were okay, and I was friends with a lot of cooks, but the food was awful. I mean, so I would always go down to the MPs. I would always go to the MPs. MPs had good food on Campbell, or if you could get in there, the NCO academies.
Yeah,
NCO Academy had good food for military chow, anyways.
Huh. What was up with that? There was a guy I talked to on here probably about a year ago, and I didn't know it until like halfway through the conversation, but it turned out that he was a Army cook, and he actually explained to me, like, because how like breakfast is always better there than the other fucking meals.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's because all that shit comes in fucking like prepackaged fucking containers that they really don't do anything besides maybe mix some stuff, heat it up, and like throw it out there, and like here's your macaroni and fuck it. But with breakfast stuff like eggs and fucking shit that you would have to like make for breakfast, most of that they can't or has to be fresh because you can't like store eggs for in a warehouse for fucking 3 years before you send it to a fucking base.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, oh, all right, good insight. That just makes me hate you more because fucking I know that you do get fucking fresh food. Why don't you get it for the rest of the shit too?
Well, and I actually asked him. We asked some of our cooks too, and they have recipe cards, and you're not allowed to deviate from these fucking recipe cards. And I'm looking at some of the recipes and like, how the hell are you supposed to make anything decent out of this shit?
Yeah.
I mean, even if you put fresh ingredients, this mix is just shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, I don't know about you guys, but like we always had like at least 2 of the big bottles of fucking Texas Pete or fucking Tabasco sauce on every fucking table. So it's like put so much fucking hot sauce on it, you can't fucking taste it. And to this day, I fucking still put Texas Pete on everything. Like, I'm just conditioned for it. Like, even if the food's good, it's like, nah, need some Texas Pete.
Yeah, we got the Tabasco. We always had Tabasco because the MRE. It's like the MRE is only to make an MRE edible is Tabasco sauce. I was in before they even came in with the heaters.
What was in MRE back then?
They didn't come up with those. They didn't come up with the first generation of those heaters till I was in about 3 years.
No, was the MRE about the same, just without the heater, or was it like a different thing altogether?
Well, we had them. They came in the brown. They came in the brown plastic sleeve. They had different recipes, of course. They've improved the recipes a lot since I was in. You always knew not to eat that damn ham omelet. The ham omelet you didn't eat because it was constantly on recall. Anything they recall every other lot, it's not something I'm eating.
Yeah, no, they didn't have those when I was in. They had the veggie omelet, which kind of looks like regurgitated baby food that somebody froze. But I think by the time I got out, they were phasing those out, and it was once in a blue moon you found one of those after maybe 2012-ish.
Well, with us, it was all the rest of the meals were okay. You get the spaghetti or such. The only meal other than the omelet nobody would eat was this chicken chow mein stuff. I think it was chicken chow mein or something, chicken lo mein, something like that. And it was pretty awful. But if you threw some Tabasco sauce in there and maybe some of the cheese from the god awful cheese packet, it was edible. I mean, I can make anything work. God knows if you go out to the desert, you're going to be skinning rattlesnakes anyways.
Yeah. Fuck, dude. I was doing Mojave Viper in 29 Palms one time. This was before my second deployment, and I was with a mortar platoon. And, you're out there just digging fucking holes all day to put, mortars in these fucking pits. And one of the other trucks had like 15 rattlesnake heads like on their fucking grill just tied to it because they kept fucking. I mean, like most people run into at least one rattlesnake and then usually just shoot away. But I guess whoever was there was just like whacking them with their fucking e-tool, fucking cutting their head off. And then like after they're done doing the Pac-Man on the ground and all the nerves are dead, taking some 550 cord and putting it on the fucking grill. I'm sure at some point that person got their ass chewed for it, but like it was fun while it was there.
We were a little crazy. We'd always have we would go hunting for them. We'd go hunting for them. We'd have a barbecue every time we go out there. We'd have a rattlesnake barbecue. Of course, everybody had rattlesnake skins.
Yeah,
just a little thing to put in your. Everybody used to keep in their wall lockers and stuff like that when they got back.
Yeah.
We'd have scorpion fights and all that kind of stuff.
Somebody at some point, this was in Nowzad and Afghan, but they had this like diorama they built, and I was impressed not only with how well it was made, or they get the materials to fucking make this thing, because like most of it was like plywood, and somehow they like I guess used like hand sanitizer to like make it look like there was this like lacquered fucking table with playing cards and drinks and ashtrays and cigarettes on it, and then like a dead scorpion with like a revolver in its claw, and then like a dead mouse on the other end with a revolver in its hand, just like slumped over. And it's like, I get you're bored. Teach a fucking class, man, because that shit is fucking talent, It
was kind of amazing how often you come across those kind of, I like to call the redneck savants.
Yeah.
They'd always come up with, we had the guy with this, he hit a cat on the way to work. I don't know what the hell he was thinking. He picked it up and brought it to work and skinned it at work. That cat skin sat on the board in the tech supply office, right there in plain sight. The skinned cat was there up on the wall for about 4 years till the battalion commander walked in one time. He was a cat lover. He lost his shit.
I'd imagine.
I've never seen him lose. I'd known the guy for 3 years. I'd seen him in midair flight emergencies. Cool as cucumber. He saw that cat skin and lost his shit. He had him jacked up on spot. I thought he was getting Article 15. I thought he was getting Article 15 from the battalion commander for having a cat skin on the wall. He said, "You get that shit out of here right now, and you go properly bury it. If I ever see you," and he was the calmest dude every other time. Our battalion commander was pretty cool, but holy shit, I'm like looking at him like, and his eyes were just wide as like. I'm about to get crucified here.
Wait. But what you were telling me is there was a section that the battalion commander didn't go in for years.
He didn't hardly ever come down to our hangar. He would walk through, and he liked to do night flights. When he would come down for his flying, he'd come down for night flights for our company. If he wanted to do day flights, he'd go over to B company.
All right.
The whole other hangar. And it was just like 2 hangars over. So he comes through daytime for once, and for whatever reason, he saw that thing and just lost his shit. I mean, it's just weird. He was a creature of habit.
Yeah.
When he wanted to fly, he'd go fly. He'd just say, "Hey, put me on the flight schedule." He always liked flying nights with us.
Well, I mean,
I love night flights. Night flights were great. You'd work 5 hours. You'd come in late, pre-flight the aircraft, get it ready.
Yeah.
The pilots would come out, do their little pre-flight. Yeah, they're pre-flight. Yeah, it's okay. They do their climb around like they know what they're looking at. They start the bird. We go fly around for 3-4 hours, do the block, pick up a block, or pick up some Humvees, or fly around, or take some artillery guys out, and they'd shoot a couple rounds off and come back. And I had the rest of the day, and I'd have the whole day off the next day until the next night flight.
That's not too bad. I mean, because especially, I mean, I don't know where you're at for that, but fucking most of the times it's cooler during the night. And fucking, I don't know about you, but I really do appreciate the aesthetic of a city at night, especially from far away. So I imagine flying around looking at that. It's like, hey, all right.
Oh, it was nice. It was. I loved flying under MVGs. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. And it was a challenge too, because you'd be doing sling loads at night with MVGs, and you're like, no depth perception. You know what MVGs are. No depth perception. You're trying off 10, 9. I'm guessing here, but because you're hanging out. You got one arm over the hook. You got one arm over the hook. You're hanging out the bottom of the aircraft. Your monkey. The only thing holding you in is a monkey harness.
Yeah.
And you're trying to call this guy in without hitting the guy underneath you, because they're usually, especially when you're doing other units and not Chinook guys, they're in a panic because they've got a big helicopter floating over their heads. Right.
Yeah. And Chinooks are like the size of a fucking bus.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I don't know if you know anything about the air assault school or any of that kind of stuff.
Very little.
One of the components is we teach them how to do sling loads, teach them how to rig them, teach them how to actually hook them to the aircraft. And the units would rotate how they would do it. So that was always an easy gig too, is go do sling load rotations with the air assault school.
Yeah.
We're over there and we're coming in and good pilots. We try to send good pilots.
Right.
We don't send the noobs over there to try and practice hovering above these guys because they're already in a panic. So we come in there nice and smooth, and we got this crew that on the top of this Humvee that just will not stand up and hook them up, because you have to stand up, put your arms over your head with the hook, and slam it in the hooks. Guys won't do it. So I'm not in the hole for once. I'm in the front door, and we're backing off, and this guy jumps up, does his Superman leap, and hooks the back hook. And hooks the back hook. The guy in the front is not hooked up. So we start picking up to back up, and we jerk this thing right off the ground.
Whoops.
And he's like, hold her up, hold it. And the guy in the hole, who's my flight engineer, is like, hold her up. They hooked up the back hook. And this instructor, the air assault instructor, had grabbed this guy and dove in the back seat, and is just laying on top of him so he doesn't fall out. So we bring it down very slowly to try and bring it up, and we have to go land. The battalion commander has to come down. We all got our asses chewed, and what happened? And my flight engineer goes over. This dumb fuck over here jumped up and hooked the ass end hook while we're trying to pull back off it to reset. And the instructor's just like, he's over there. This guy's over doing push-ups because he's just pissed. He knew we weren't responsible for that. He knew this guy was just stupid because he'd already seen us wave him off. Yeah. So the guy had just jumped up and gotten his courage,
Yeah. Now that's something I always fucking found interesting about the fucking Army too, because as far as I guess correctional stuff, when I got in, it was at the level of, all right, hey, so you fucked up putting a machine gun together, right? So you're gonna disassemble this fucking 50 caliber Mark 19, And then in full and flocking Kevlar, you're gonna run up that fucking hill with it and then disass it and then back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Also, since I'm making you do it, I'm gonna do it with you. But like that was like legally, that was about as dirty as you can get with it. But then like you go to an army base and you see some dude getting his ass chewed while he's screaming, you know, yes, Sergeant, doing push-ups, and it's like, why don't we have that?
I don't think they do anymore. I mean, it's like really in a permanent party unit, you really don't have that. At the most, the worst scrub you're going to do is get put in parade rest and get your ass chewed.
Yeah.
I mean, if it really came down to it, I was in at the end of the NOM guys.
Yeah.
The last of the NOM guys were in. They still remember Connex counseling.
Yeah.
They still remember going out back behind the Connexes and settling the issue. But we were to the point where we couldn't do that anymore. So the most you're going to do is get your ass chewed, and maybe get, if it comes and you'll be doing some shitty detail later.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean, from what I understand, the infantry was still doing that shit, still smoking guys.
Yeah, no, because I just remember a couple times when I was like young, so like this would have been like 2007 or 8-ish, maybe even fucking 9. But like I remember being somewhere, I think I was in Korea, up at the Rod range, or the Rodriguez fucking live fire fucking range, and some dude doing push-ups, and then like some sergeant like holding like an M16 over his head while he's yelling at somebody. So I imagine it had something to do with losing your rifle, but
probably or flagging somebody.
Yeah, but
because God knows privates and flagging other troops. Jeez.
Yeah. Now that though, fucking there's some things you can get away with, and that's in the name of safety. And if it's in the name of safety, then hey, listen, it was in the name of safety, so don't touch that. But it's like, I saw a dude one time, friggin', we were at the range, and guy turned around, flagged the entire line, and the range coach grabbed the fucking barrel of the M16, pulled it back, and then butt stroked the dude in the face with it. Like, broke this dude's fucking face open. Took his rifle away and, fucking ball, whatever. And then all that came up with was, well, he was flagging the other Marines, and I had to stop him. It's like, okay, all right, cool. Appropriate action. So
we had a weird couple of years there for a while. I mean, like my unit set the post unit for AWOLs.
Yeah.
In a year. We had 7 AWOLs. I mean, to the point of 3 of them actually just turned to desertions. They just left and never came back.
Right.
I mean, who goes AWOL that much? I mean, this is in like 94. There was nothing going on in 94. We weren't doing nothing. We weren't in any combat. They just decided, hey, this ain't for me. I'm going home.
And you were in Kentucky at that point?
Yeah, I was the 101st.
Yeah.
An aviation unit. For God's sakes. We had the most sham job for the most part. I mean, yes, it was getting a little ugly. Clinton had cut our budget, so we were having trouble getting parts, and we had a couple of hangar queens, including my hangar queen. Yeah. I was lent out to everybody because my bird was literally missing windshields and bubble. I was missing blades, and it was only had one engine, and we couldn't get parts. So hey, that one will do. We were down to cannibalization for some of the stuff. We had the fleet grounded once for substandard bolts because, as we all know, everything's made by the lowest bidder.
Right.
But it was just goofy. We had a guy walk in the infantry battalion next to ours, and his leave got turned down. So what do? He walks in, he shoots the first sergeant. Then his platoon sergeant was in the office with him, turns to run, he shoots him, and shoots himself. Just people going crazy. They had a battalion commander get shot in the head at a live fire range. Apparently, Genius is sitting here he had his rifle up in the air, trying to clear a jam or clear a misfire. Battalion commander walked up next to him. He flagged the battalion commander right up into his helmet.
Yeah. I
mean, apparently he lived, but yeah. Just weird. It was just a weird year. That was the years some dude comes out. The MPs show up at the infantry battalion next to ours. I don't know what it was with Roxxons, but the 187th they like to party.
Yeah. This
guy apparently was partying on I don't know what. He comes out. The MPs get called in that there's some dude waving a big knife around, and he's crazy. He comes out in his tighty whities, and he's got a samurai sword. And they've got the dog. and they let the dog go at him. He hits the dog with that sword. Let's just say he did not make it. He did not make it to the PMO. He did not make it to the Provost Marshal's office. He was
straight into the ambulance.
Yeah, he was straight to the morgue.
Oh, well, never mind then.
Yeah, he went straight to the morgue. He was crazy because after he went to the dog, he charged them. At least that's their story, and they're sticking to it.
Yeah.
But that was crazy. That was crazy year. I had a first sergeant get relief for cause.
Doing what?
Sexual harassment.
Yep.
Oh, no, wait. No, that one. No, sexual discrimination. He wasn't harassing him. He was busting female soldiers worse than he would bust the male soldiers.
Mm.
So they complained to the IG. They came in and talked to the battalion commander, and they want to get rid of him anyway. So he went over to post housing. And then the next year, our sergeant major got relief for cause and got to go work at post housing too. Because apparently you're not supposed to start shouting at officers that what the fuck are you doing in my office? They walked in, hey, Sergeant Major, and he talked to you. What the fuck are you doing in my office? You don't just walk in, my little Puerto Rican guy.
Yeah.
Chip on his shoulder. Cute daughter, though. Just saying. He did not like me looking at his daughter. I was like, I'm Puerto Rican. I did not ask to date. I did not ask to meet his daughter. I was not stupid.
So when I was in Quantico, we had this first sergeant, and he was, older guy, but like, he had a 16-year-old daughter who was cute, and we're all degenerates. And he also got like a brand new fucking Charger for whatever year that was. So I don't know, 2012, 13, around there. And he give the safety brief. He's like, hey, listen, if you get in fucking any trouble, call me. I'll come pick you up if nobody else will. Just make sure you call everybody else on the recall roster. Granted, I'm gonna be fucking shithoused, and my daughter's learning how to drive. So you're gonna get picked up in a new Challenger with somebody who doesn't know how to drive, and me yelling at you drunk in the front seat. So me and one of my buddies like, that sounds like a good time. So we intentionally drive out into this fucking place. Like we know there's like, kind of in the area of this dude's house, get shithoused. And we did this thing where we went up the recall roster. We called everybody, let it ring one time, and hung up just so it was on our fucking phone record. And we get up to our fucking company gunnery sergeant. We're like second to last one, and he picks up, and we're like, hey, Gunny, you picked up the phone real quick. What's going on? And he's like, not a lot. Why are you calling me? He's like, yeah, we got drunk out in town, and we can't get back to base, and a taxi won't pick us up. And my buddy got this new app called Uber. We're going to try that, but we're just letting you know if anything happens, giving you a situational update. It's like, okay, which was really awkward conversation fucking Monday. Because like, so why are you guys blah, 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 whatever. And we're like trying to say, not because we wanted to see for a certain hot daughter in a fucking Challenger. So.
I do understand that. We had our share of, NCOs that would say, hey, if you can't get a ride, call me. And we had so we did that one time, 2:00 in the morning. I started, Kelly, you go pick us up. We're a little drunk and the cab won't come pick us up. So he came down, picked us up next morning. He said, just make formation. Okay. Because it was like, that was a Thursday. So we didn't have PT that morning. It was just show up to work at 7:30.
Yeah.
2:00 in the morning. I'll be sober by then. We'll be good.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's fair enough.
Fucking, they even had a cab fund. They even had a cab fund. If you didn't have the money, they would pay the cab when they got there.
Right.
Just make sure you put the money back when you get paid.
Which is fair enough.
Yet still, dipshits are getting DUIs. Hell, my roommate got 3 DUIs in 3 weeks because he wanted to get out of the Army.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, that's
he was in Italy. He was in Italy before that, and apparently the Italians take DUIs. No big deal.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of racist jokes I can say about Italians about that. They all include wine.
Yeah, they all include wine. He comes back. He's on his 3rd DUI, and he's on his 3rd DUI, and he's driving up the back gate at post. Almost never any MPs there. Tonight there's MPs. He's like, okay, so he's driving up. He's being super careful because normally if they see the sticker, they'll wave you in. He turned his lights off. I'm too far away. I got to turn the lights back on. So he turns the lights back on. He turns the lights back off. And back on and back off. Shockingly, they stopped him at the gate.
Sounds like a winner.
Oh, he was a true trooper. He just wanted out at that point. Then I had the other guy next door to me. He had 5 DUIs. He had the best lawyer in the universe. Pled all of them down to reckless driving.
Oh, good for him.
He said this guy was worth his money. I mean, 5. How do you get 5 DUIs and plead them all to reckless driving? I don't know who this judge was. Apparently, I'm not too worried about it. You're serving your country, so apparently.
Dude, I had one of those kind of sort of fucking weird things. Anyway, I go out to this fucking my buddy's going away party, right? And it's out in town in Oceanside. And we're hanging out at the Pier View pub and the Haunted Head, you know, that area by the fucking movie theater and like the porno shops and shit, right?
Yeah.
And I get like fucking obliterated. Like I didn't mean to get that drunk. I was gonna come out, have a few drinks, say bye. It's 2:00 in the morning. I am shit housed. I'm not, and then like, you know, the front gate's like right there. So it's like if I just like hang out until I'm sober enough to drive on base, it's not going to be till 10 o'clock anyway. So I'm just going to go get a hotel and rack out. Right. So the next morning, later in the morning, I did somehow, I did manage to get on base at like fucking like 7-ish and get to work on time. Like I smelled a little bad, but you know, I shaved and, my fucking sergeant major, because, you know, we're at the Mew, so it's a very consolidated fucking thing. Sergeant major is like, hey, fucking Corporal Ainsworth, come here. And I'm like, great. Fucking, he's like, hey, what, why are you late? And why are you on the blotter for having a fucking parking ticket? And I was like, Sergeant Major, I went out for my buddies going away, and I had a few too many drinks, and I decided that being late today would be better than getting a DUI because I didn't want to put other people's lives at risk by drunk driving. And he goes, that's some good shit. That's kind of shit I like to hear. Get out of my office. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm out. The fucking evening formation that fucking week, you know, halfway through, or if the safety brief, hey, Corporal Ainsworth, come up here. I'm like, oh, God damn it. Because, you know, that happened. Usually when that happens, something's getting taken away, you know? He's like, now I want everybody, puts his hand on my shoulder, to be like Corporal Ainsworth. I'm like, oh, God damn it, no. And this dude just like fucking like saying like he's responsible and he's this and that, and, you know, be like him, don't drink and drive, even if it's going to cost you this and that. And then I'm just like, dude, I was just trying to like skate, man. Fuck.
Meanwhile, everybody's like, brown noser.
Yep.
Because it is merciless.
Mm-hmm.
It is merciless. I do like the fact though that something from the Air Force is spread throughout all the military. I never thought it would happen.
What's that?
The concept of the Blue Falcon.
Did that start off in the Air Force?
That is an Air Force thing that spread military wide. I'd never heard of it, and it wasn't a thing when I was in, but I'd heard about it afterwards, and I guess it's been an Air Force thing forever.
Huh. Yeah, no, that was a big thing when I was in the Marines, but like everybody across the services knew what it was. Yeah,
and now it's a crossover. And, you know, because sometimes, you know, some things you pick up expressions from the Army. Every service has got some, but like the Air Force has finally got their thing, the Blue Falcon. The fact that the Blue Falcon,
it just happens to be buddy fucker. Fuck.
You know, but you know, you look at the Air Force and say, it doesn't shock me.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever watch the cartoon?
What's that?
Did you ever watch the old cartoon?
Which one?
Blue Falcon.
The Blue Falcon cartoon? Yeah.
Dino Mutt. It was on the same show or at the same time, like Space Ghost.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All those old Hanna-Barbera superhero cartoons, and I like the fact that they've turned him into Harvey Birdman. It's all about the Harvey Birdman and that kind of stuff now.
Or it's Harvey Birdman. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Birdman. Birdman.
Oh, you know, I'm old enough to remember some stuff. So, you know, that stuff was actually on TV when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, now it's on Cartoon Network because, God, I'm old enough to remember three channels, and if the president was on TV, your night was shot.
Yeah.
You know, Jimmy Carter. If you see Jimmy Carter States on TV, it's a bad night. Your cartoons aren't coming on. You're not seeing reruns of Flintstones.
They aired that for a long time because, like, I remember watching that shit when I was like, well, I was a kid, but you know, like almost a fucking teenager. So like late '90s, that was still on you can find it on TV. Like nowadays, I think you'd be hard pressed to find the Jetsons just airing on something.
Yeah, but they probably been canceled because they're problematic.
Yeah.
George Jetson is obviously problematic.
Yeah, working at a sprocket factory.
He's got a sprocket factory. He's got a sprocket. He works in a sprocket factory, and he's got a robot maid. He's obviously an oppressor.
Yeah.
Oh, better not say that.
Fucking there was that one crossover episode though that made it weird because it was like technically the Jetsons and the Flintstones were happening at the same time. So the Flintstones weren't prehistoric; they were living after some type of nuclear apocalypse where everyone else just like lived in the sky now.
Yeah, exactly. Now they're post-apocalyptic. Now they went from prehistoric to post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Mad Max. Fred Flintstone in Mad Max. Yabba dabba doo.
I would love to see the Flintstones car with like a fucking blower on it. It's like, dude, what are you doing with that? This is foot powered.
It was funny. There's a guy I saw on, I think it's Instagram or Twitter, but he's an author, and this day job he does heavy equipment. And somebody's making a joke about Fred Flintstone did that, but he did it better. His was foot powered. What's your excuse? I'm thinking, well, I almost applied for that job.
Yeah.
You're not a big cat.
And then I'm over here getting in trouble for saying that, a fucking pregnant horse is faster than a not pregnant horse because technically it's 2 horsepower.
Well, I guess you're technically true. You know what? They're all a pain in the ass, though.
Yeah.
I used to have horses. Never again.
No?
No. God, no. My ex-wife loved horses and talked me into... I sold my motorcycle. I sold my beautiful ZX-10 for a horse because I just didn't ride it much. And so I figured I'd get the horse and we'd go riding together till her horse bucked her off and broke her back. So at that point, I had no more use for a horse. And it ate a lot, and it was just a pain in the ass.
But, well, did you get rid of it the way you normally get rid of horses?
No, I didn't abandon it in the field, and I didn't put one between its eyes.
Oh,
I was going to get my money back.
Oh, okay. Well, because
I got my money back out of it.
Horse is good. Like I ate it in Japan. It's surprisingly tasty. A little gamey, but
I lived in Missouri. Meat's cheap there.
Yeah.
I sold the horse. Bought another motorcycle. Because, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to get something out of it at least. She can keep her opener.
Fair.
No, I tried that. It just wasn't for me. Not a cowboy. Not for my long line of cowboys.
Yeah, no, and it's kind of weird because like fucking what is it? To talk about several things that we've talked about tonight. Friggin' I'm towards the end of the 9th book now in the series, and I'm going to release the 7th, 8th, and 9th all at the same time. And no spoilers or anything, but like there is a lot of horse riding and sword fights, both of which I know jack shit about. Gone down a lot of weird fucking YouTube rabbit holes. Like, oh no, this is actually called this, or this is what you want to do in this situation. And it's like, I have no idea what you said, but I'm going to change what you said just enough to where if that's copyright for whatever reason, you can't sue me. And then,
Well, the basic idea behind any sword fight is keep the pointy or edge side away from you and put the pointy or edge side into them.
Yeah. And then what I would do for sword fights is like I would find videos like, hey, best accurately depicted, sword fights and whatever. And I just go watch that scene and then like kind of write down what they did. But then instead of trying to figure out what the technical term was for it was like swung this way, blocked that way.
Well, yeah, and it just depends the kind of swords you're talking about. If you're talking about broadswords, that's a whole different thing. Yeah. Rapier, there's lots of technical stuff. Yeah. Broadsword, not as much.
Yeah, and then luckily, it's mostly sabers, so they're on horseback anyway. It's like
horse saber. There's actually, you can actually still find the old military manuals.
Yeah.
So a lot of that. There's a lot of detail in those friggin' things. Patton wrote a great one about it. Patton designed it, last Army saber.
I did not know that.
Yep, Patton designed the last. It's called the Patton saber, 1917.
Huh.
It's called the Patton, and he wrote. He was actually a pentathlete. Yeah. Let's see. That's the one. Horseback riding. There's horseback riding, shooting, fencing, running, and swimming.
Huh.
Basically, all the things you would do if you were stuck behind enemy lines.
I mean,
I think he finished 5th in the Olympics.
Good for him.
As a young officer.
Yeah, I knew that he went to the Olympics. I never knew what it was for.
Yeah, I think it was the pentathlon.
Huh.
Yeah, pentathlon. That's it.
They should bring that back.
Yeah, that guy was a badass.
Yeah.
Didn't understand PTSD much.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
he was a hard ass.
Yeah, well, you can get into trouble now for saying quit being a pussy, get back in the fight. But like in World War II, it's like, you know what, I'm gonna give that a pass, man. Like there's bigger shit going on.
Well, that was the funny part too, was the Germans could not believe that they would actually put Patton on the side for slapping a troop.
Yeah.
They just couldn't believe it. It was so anathema to what the Germans believed as far as, slapping a guy? No.
Yeah, and the Germans were just
when the phony army his phony army they're building at Calais.
Yeah.
Or at Dover to go invade Calais, they're like, oh man, that's where it's coming. That's why the Normandy was such a shock to them.
Yeah,
that was nowhere near it.
I was reading something somewhere that that deception was so good that like when we landed on Normandy, the German high command was like, okay, so that's the diversion. They're coming in here, move all the tanks north. And then the tanks they wanted to move south. They're like, well, Hitler has to say okay on that, and he hasn't woken up yet, and I'm not waking him up. So
yeah. There was some there was always, it's always those, you read that stuff and you're just that one little decision made so much the difference.
Yeah.
Like letting Goering try and bomb the guys at Dunkirk instead of just letting the tanks roll on in and take them all out.
Yeah.
Nope. Stop right there. They're going to send in the bombers. Yeah. How'd that work out for you?
Yeah. I'm sure they still would have lost, but it would have been a lot different.
Yeah, they would have, instead of just capturing a good chunk of the French army, they'd have caught the British army right there.
Yeah, because most of the fucking British army was like right there. So we got your whole damn army. They wanted to like raise complete fucking, new recruits from fucking nothing to go back. I mean, granted, the Russians still would have stomped them into the dirt, but it would have made one side a little bit easier.
Well, and even that, even on the Russian side, it was the German generals wanted to pull back and make a fortified line, and if they would have done that, they would have been able to wait out the winter. But Hitler would not one step back. You have at certain points you have to realize you have to make a tactical retreat because you're just not set up for it.
Yeah.
If they had another year, if they'd have fortified and stopped them right there before the Siberian troops could get there and had actual fortified lines, they might have stood a chance. But it's that one little decision. Oops.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways that the Germans could have won World War II. Absolutely every one of them, though, involves Hitler not being in charge.
Yeah. Or just letting your generals do their job instead of letting the corporal from Austria think he's a tactical strategic genius.
Yeah. Which is weird because, like, if you've ever read up on his, like, shit in, like, World War I, it's like, that dude was a legitimate fucking war hero, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be a good commander. Like, those things don't go hand in hand.
He rose through the ranks he was a combat runner.
Yeah.
But, like, the Iron Cross, I read what went into that. Basically, they were promised an Iron Cross if they would run this message through this insane battlefield and get the message delivered, and he didn't. He got the Iron Cross first class, but it didn't make him. It wasn't, super Audie Murphy.
Yeah, no, it wasn't anything like that. But
and he wasn't in charge of any troops. He just rose through the ranks to corporal.
Yeah,
I mean, and everybody said he was just an odd duck, but the military kind of fit him because
he's a weirdo.
Yeah, exactly. How many weirdos have you known that this is just perfect for him? There's no way this guy's ever going to operate on the outside world.
Yeah, one of the funniest things about him, though, that I think, and also one of the bigger blunders I think that's ever happened in, like, history was, so after World War I ended, like, he stayed in the army and went into, like, military intelligence or some shit, and he got in this position to where, like, he was supposed to be, like, kind of like a domestic spy type, fucking Big Brother type dude.
Yep.
And the army was like, okay, so there's this group of weirdos that might be a fucking threat to the country. We want you to infiltrate the Nazi party and take them down. So he goes and joins the Nazi party to infiltrate them. And then I hope that fucking commander got a bad fit rep after that. But
oh no, because there was quite a few of the commanders that were right wing, that were much nationalistic, kind of what they wanted. A lot of that was just what they wanted was to see a lot of it was, can we use these guys?
Yeah,
are they a threat or can we use them? Versus they knew there's groups like the socialists or the communists. We can't use these people. They're just no. They like Russia. They like the Russians and the communists too much. Yeah. That's not going to work for us. But can we use these people and play them against these people?
Right.
And he got in there and it's like, oh, I can make these puppets dance. These aren't the brightest bulbs on the tree. Yeah,
and then things went a little bit awry is the word I'm going to use.
Yeah. Well,
Although I do have a book recommendation for you. It's called The Iron Dream.
I've heard that one.
So what happens in it is after World War I, young Adolf gets out of the army, decides that Germany's all kinds of fucked up and it needs a lot of fixing. And he also decides that he ain't the guy to do it. So he moves to San Francisco and joins a biker gang. And while he's in the biker gang, he meets some musicians and then invents heavy metal. So he's riding around playing heavy metal music with his biker gang, and then he becomes a best-selling science fiction author.
Okay, that's a different way of going there.
Yeah, it's weird, and like this book got a Hugo, like in the 70s or some shit.
I will definitely have to check that out. I've got there's a guy, Larry Correa. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He writes the Monster Hunter National series.
Okay.
And he's got a second series called the Grim Noir. And it's set in the 30s. And sometime in the late 1800s, people started developing magic abilities, various magic abilities. They had people control gravity or like phase through walls or telepathy or teleporting or this or that. And so World War I happened with these people with magic abilities, and somebody using their necromancy to create a giant zombie army in Germany. And they have these geniuses like Tesla created the Tesla ray that basically nuked Berlin, and basically Tesla rayed Berlin, and Berlin's now walled off, and there's like still zombies and stuff in there, but there's no living people in there except like some scavengers. And part of the backstory is that in 1927, some Austrian rabble-rouser named Adolf Hitler got executed for trying to incite the crowds in Germany. So they just executed his ass on the spot.
Which is weird because the beer hall push, you'd think Germany would have shot him back then, but he had a big following in Munich. Yeah. If it had been anywhere else, I think if it had been in Berlin or if it had been anywhere else in Germany, he probably would have got shot or actually put in jail. But in Munich, they had him right there in his home base for the Nazis. Yeah, and sympathetic judges. So they let him turn that whole thing into a propaganda win, even though he went to jail. Yeah. It just gave him time. He got his private cell and his secretary and Rudolf Hess to transcribe Mein Kampf, and it's like, which makes Rudolf Hess the first grammar Nazi.
Yeah, makes it Hess, Mr. Parachute into England. I'm gonna go.
That's a weird story too. Like, because that dude died in the 50s or the 60s and spent the entire war in an open air garden prison in London or some shit.
Yep. Because he flew to London and parachuted in. I'm gonna make a peace treaty. That's how delusional Rudolf Hess was.
Yeah.
I mean, of that bunch of creeps, he was on the less creepy side versus some of the others. Julia Stryker, that kind of super creep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe not the worst of the Nazis. Well, I think the worst of the Nazis were all Austrians, which is funny because, you know, the Nazis are a German thing. It's like Austria is a different country, right? For those of you listening later, I'm using really heavy air quotes for this. But besides that, like the nastiest of the nastiest either got killed then, or like Mossad killed them afterwards, or Christopher Lee killed them. Which, if you don't know that story, we'll go into that here in a second.
Oh, I love that story. Shout it again.
But the dirtiest, maybe not the nastiest, but the dirtiest of the Nazis ended up at NASA.
Yep.
Building our fucking rockets to, like, you know,
on Braun.
Yeah, which is like, that dude's an American hero, right? It's like, yeah, he totally didn't, like, literally nail Jews to walls for not working hard enough at his fucking V2 factory or anything.
Yep.
Yeah. America.
There's this YouTube channel, Dark Skies. He goes over different aircraft programs from World War II.
Yeah, I love
a lot of the Nazi ones. Really in-depth, really good, interesting, in-depth stuff about some of these Nazi airplanes and American airplanes that I knew nothing about. They made a jet-powered bomber that was called the America.
That's what the B-2 is based off of, the flying wing.
No, it was it was propeller and jet powered. It was supposed to be able to reach America and get back and bomb New York City. And there's rumors that it actually made it all the way to New York on reconnaissance flights and buzzed New York City.
Huh.
But it just came too late.
Yeah.
But he does really good videos on these different aircraft and stuff. I'm like, that's some interesting stuff. Talking about, he had a video about landing a C-130 on the Forrestal.
Yeah.
To see if that was a viable option to resupply. I'm like,
yeah, well, it was weird because they actually did it. They just were like, yeah, that's not going to fly. We're not going to be able to do that twice.
And apparently they were prepared to crane it off and just dump it into the ocean if they couldn't get it taxied right to get it take off, because there's only 13 feet of clearance between the right wing and the tower.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, could you imagine the balls of steel that guy had bringing that thing in for a land on a 50 deck and 40 knot crosswinds?
Yeah, no, that channel is great. But there was one fucking, speaking of balls of steel, friggin', do you know what a wild weasel is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for those of you listening at home who aren't aware, this guy Dark Skies has done a couple episodes on him. But pretty much what it is you're a attack aircraft, and your job is to shoot up anti-aircraft facilities. And the way you do that is you fly over one so they get missile lock on you. You dodge the missile and then take a straight nosedive at it and unload all your payload and fly away. And it's like, how did they find a plane that had a motor that was big enough to carry your nutsack? You know, like,
because the F4 had plenty of jet. If there was one thing the F4 had, it was plenty of engine.
Yeah. Fun fact about this, I didn't realize this till recently. I don't know if it was Dark Skies or another channel, but they were talking about like payload capacity, and apparently, like by Vietnam, like a fighter jet, like an F4 or like an F5, would be able to carry as many munitions as a flying fortress did in World War II. Like, the technology improved that much in 30 years.
Oh yeah, it's just, I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy how many some of these jets they made, and some of the technology. I mean, and even the stuff they were using in Vietnam would still just decimate anything from 20 years prior.
Yeah.
I mean, the leaps and bounds they made from the Korean War to the Vietnam War as far as jet technology is just ridiculous.
Yeah. And the F4s apparently were a fucking special fucking type of fucking animal. So like my dad was in the Air Force in like the 70s. And I think he was stationed up in Idaho, but he was saying they would do like war games against like the Idaho National Guard and shit. And, you know, they'd have like F-16s and like F-15s, you know, trying to go do fucking shit, flying around doing whatever. And then while they're doing that, they're like on the airline or on the fucking tarmac doing whatever it is maintainers do. And then they'd hear something and they'd see like 2 F-4s, you know, from the fucking Idaho National Guard, like flying over the tarmac, like breaking the sound barrier beneath like the level of the lights lighting it up. So it's like, so you're breaking the sound barrier 50 feet off the deck. Yeah, dude, I don't want to fuck with those guys.
Yeah, and when I was a kid, we lived in Nevada, and I lived by where they have the Reno air races out there instead.
Yeah,
which is just outside of Reno, and they have there's an airport out there, and they hold the Reno air races. But the Blue Angels will come out there, and at the time back in the 70s, I think they were still using the F4s, and the scream these things would let out it's like that. You think Valkyries are showing up and choosing the and they're choosing the slaying because these things would come screaming through there. I mean, they'd hit the afterburners and it'd just be like, holy hell, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
And like you said, it was the 70s, so they didn't have any rules against breaking the sound barrier right there. They got all soft in the 80s.
No,
no more broken windows.
Yeah, no, fucking I saw something like that once, like that. So my uncle was an F-18 pilot in the Navy, and the Navy does this thing where like they'll get all the families together and they'll put you on the boat and like go out for like a 2-day cruise or whatever. And they were doing a thing. We're all on top of this fucking aircraft carrier. I think it was the Truman, right? And we're all looking fucking over this like port side, because we got some helicopters doing some stuff, and woo, look at all the helicopters. They're doing cool shit. This F-18 fucking screams by like 50 feet on top of us. And everyone's like, what the fuck was that? They're, it's like, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, that's how we do things here. And I'm like, God damn Navy, you guys suck.
Oh, I didn't get to do many air shows, and I missed out on doing the one thing I ever wanted to do. We had a chance to land. We had a chance that nobody else had ever done it in our unit. We had a chance to do an aircraft carrier landing because we were doing a joint exercise in the Navy and land a Chinook on the carrier deck. And I just wanted to do that so bad. Just because my sister was in the Navy. She's stationed on the Enterprise. I was saying, I got to land on it too. But what happens the day before it's come? Oh, we canceled it. The weather's supposed to be bad. We canceled it. Like, you bastards.
Let's see that.
Anything else fun around here?
That's something that always fucking bothered me. It's like, oh, we can't do this with the birds because the weather's too bad. It's like, okay, so we're not gonna do it in training. Got it. If we're in combat and there are like lives on the line, are you guys gonna say no, red air? No, red air. Okay, so people are dying right now, and you can't. You're not gonna risk getting your fucking little helicopter in the air to go blow something up or pick some dudes up. No. Okay. Why'd you build the fucking thing? Oh, you're gonna send trucks instead. Trucks that can't see anything and are vulnerable to IED. Okay, gotcha. Like,
yeah, well, it's kind of like, how is it that the Coast Guard can fly in god awful weather? I mean, weather like that movie. What was it? The Coast Guard movie with Kevin Costner. We fly in weather that grounds the Navy, and that's true.
Yeah. The fucking puddle pirates are doing it. Why the fuck a warbird?
Yeah, the guys who are usually trying to do drug interdiction and rescuing sinking fishermen can do it, but somehow the United States Army and the United States Marine Corps and the United States Navy, we can't rescue our precious birds. Because I know it will fly in bad weather. I've been in bad weather. I've been in lightning storms.
Yeah.
You want to get through that as quickly as possible. That's an interesting. Seeing lightning flash around you at 2,000 feet is interesting.
I'd imagine it's one of those things where you'd be like, this would be really beautiful if it wasn't me looking at it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the helicopter trip from hell. Yeah. I did that once. It took us 8 days to get from Fort Campbell, Kentucky to NTC out in Barstow. It's a 3-day trip normally. 2.5-day trip. It takes 8 days. We had problems from the minute we took off. I mean, literally took an hour outside of Fort Campbell. We had our fuel gauge go bad.
Ooh.
So we're sitting there. We know we have the fuel, so we're good. So we flew. We get 3 hours.
Yeah.
So we flew 2 hours, refueled. We're trying to figure out what it is. Couldn't figure it out. So we get to, I think we get to Fort Smith, Arkansas. Refueled, flew on. We get to Texas, and we stopped in Amarillo. And we're like, okay, we got to get this fixed because we don't know how much fuel we have. So we're sitting here, and we go through we troubleshoot the whole thing, the entire fuel harness. You know how big a Chinook is.
Yeah.
There is a wiring harness to the entire main fuel tank, which is about 20 feet long.
Yeah.
Has gone bad. There's no way to change this out without climbing in that tank. So we have to get a fuel truck out, drain the tank, pull the tank down, let it air out for a day so that somebody can climb in there. And then we're like, who's skinny enough to fit in there? Because somebody's got to climb in that thing and rewire it.
Yeah.
So we're looking over here. Hey, Mr. Sullivan, come here. You're tall and skinny. And this guy who used to be my AIT instructor is now the walking warrant.
Yeah.
He spent 3 hours in that thing rewiring that wiring harness. He was so high off fuel fumes.
Dude, I'd fucking
We had to
imagine.
pull him out about every 20 minutes.
Especially in Arkansas, fucking, I don't know what time of year it was, but I can imagine it was hot and fucking muggy.
It was god awful. And he's in there, and we said, take your flight suit off. Do not be in your flight suit. He's in there with shorts and his army t-shirt, his PT shorts and army t-shirt, and just rewiring this thing. And there's not much room. He's up there like this, trying to work a little stubby screwdriver to undo the thing, and just every 20 minutes we're pulling him out here to let him have some air. So this thing took all day.
Yeah, you'd think you'd work him in shifts or some shit, like rotate in and out.
Oh, but he's only skinny enough to fit in there because it is a small hole. He's just a tall, skinny guy.
So what you're saying is that's a manufacturer or an engineering flaw.
Yes, that was not. I wasn't fitting in there even then. I was not the fat guy I am now.
Yeah,
I wasn't fitting in there then. So if you ain't got a skinny guy, that ain't getting changed. And he finally finishes this up. We get going again, and we get to Tempe, Arizona, and we're gonna stay the night there and fly out the next day because we're out of hours. It's getting dark. We're out of fuel. We're out of our hours. So we get down, and I said, we've got internal tanks. I said, I asked the lieutenant, hey, should we refuel these? And she goes, no, that's okay. We should be able to get there fine without it.
Well, you would think one of the problems you're having, you might want to just be on the safe side. And
she said, don't bother. I'm like, okay. So our lieutenant says, don't bother. I said, okay. So we go to the hotel. It's Tempe. It's the nursing school graduation for ASU. You got a bunch of young aviation guys. It was a fun time that night. So we come out the next morning. We're going to take off, and we start flying out. And we get about an hour outside. Okay, Chief, turn on the internal tanks. I can't, sir. They're empty. What do you mean they're empty? Yeah, LT told me not to turn them on. Not to fuel them last night. Did you tell him that? Well, yeah, I didn't think we needed them. So here we are flying back to Flagstaff. By that point, he says, you know what? I'm not doing this. And we went back to the hotel that night. And the next day, we made NTC. 8 days later.
Oh, God, that sounds like a fucking ride.
The flight back was even worse. Because that was actually in-flight emergencies.
Okay.
Because we do our NTC rotation. The aircraft has not one problem the entire time. Not so much as a hiccup. We're on the way back, and the rear transmission, Chinook got 7 transmissions. Five transmissions.
Okay.
It's been a while. And it's got 5 transmissions, and the rear transmission for the rear blades is getting hot for some reason. And we're getting chip lights on it, right? So it means there's metal shavings in there, and it's getting hot. And we're trying to figure out what's going on. So we land, and we're like, we're looking at the thing. It's just clogged up with dirt.
Yeah,
the thing's completely clogged up with dirt. And we're like, oh my God. So there's no way apart. So we take the thing apart. So we take the thing off, clean it up, take the valves on the inside, so it's just flowing. Right. So it's like open up a radiator, so it's just flowing constantly. There's no check valves in there, so it's just going to get constant airflow. And we're hoping it'll keep it cool enough to get back. Nope. So this thing's starting to heat up, and we're landing and so we're trying to get as far as we can before we know this thing's just going to shit itself.
Right.
So
you're flying like 50 feet off the deck, so if anything goes bad, it's like, no, put it down.
Yeah, exactly. So we're flying along, and we're coming to Flagstaff, and this thing is heating up, and it was just not cooling down. And now we're starting to get chip lights on it. So something's starting to shave off in there. So some of the gear. So our pilot, who's an instructor pilot and a warrant officer, looks over at his co-pilot, who's a second lieutenant West Pointer. Where's the airport? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? I can't find it on the map. I've never seen a pilot do this. He let go of the controls, snatched the map out of his hand, put it on the center console. He puts his hands back on the controls because the controls had magnetic locks on them. So if you took your hands off, it wouldn't automatically just crap themselves. So he's sitting here looking at the map, flying along because there's nothing in front of us. He's looking at the map. Okay, I found it. He's looking around, points at it. There it is. And he called in-flight emergency. We beat the fire truck out there. Said, we're coming in hot. Declared in-flight emergency. So we go there. We land. The fire truck meets us down there. We were just at the red line. So we shut everything down emergency, which means the first thing you did was put both engines full stop. Just get it stopped before something seized up and exploded.
Yeah. So
we're down there and I've got the fire extinguisher out ready to go because at this point I'm shaking because I like thinking we're going to come falling out of the sky. It's the closest I've ever come to thinking we're falling out of the sky. And Flagstaff, Arizona for the next week, waiting for a rear transmission. They just sent us a whole new transmission. Waiting for them to either FedEx us this transmission or they've done that before. You'd be shocked what FedEx will haul.
It's not the FedEx would haul it. It's the fact that the Army wouldn't just drive it there themselves. No,
they actually end up putting it out. They could not get FedEx to sort it out for them because they've done this before. They couldn't get FedEx to sort it out, so they put the transmission under the bird, flew it all the way out to Flagstaff, Arkansas, or Flagstaff, Arizona, for 2 days. It's a 2-day flight. Flew them out there. So meanwhile, while we're waiting for this thing, I got to go see the Grand Canyon on the Army. They put us up in the Radisson, and because for whatever reason, the officers had the company credit card, so they picked a good hotel.
And you're getting your fucking money's worth of that government travel fucking credit card, man.
That entire time of, I think it was 16 days there and back, we ended up staying in nice hotels the entire time. Not one flea bag.
Nice.
I'm so every other time I ever went TDY, it was always flea bags. When you're on the government dime for any other time, or you just got to go be a TDY and get reimbursed, it's a flea bag every time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, most of the time, fucking I went to the through the PSYOPs course, and it was weird the way we did it. So like I was in a unit in Quantico, like at the Information Operations fucking center. And I was, part of the group of dudes that would go down to, Fort Bragg to go do the fucking PSYOPs bullshit. But like, they didn't put us in barracks down there. They like put us in the fucking like the Holiday Inn. Like, it's not like the Ritz, but it's not the fucking Motel 6 either. Like, there was like breakfast and shit every morning. It was weird.
Normally stay.
Yeah, because I'm used to, hey, we're going to this place. Where are we sleeping? On the ground. Got it. But you're putting me in like a decent 3-star hotel. Okay. All right. Neat.
I'll take that.
Say what?
I said, I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah. Yeah.
I slept on the ground.
And it was like on post too. So, which was weird, but I don't know how the Army does shit. So
I've never seen they have like visiting officers quarters and they have NCO quarters. I never noticed.
But that kind of stuff is just like a glorified fucking hotel anyway. But this is like an actual fucking like hotel. I guess it's just because of where it was on Bragg. They had enough foreign nationals coming in and out that they couldn't just shove people into fucking bricks. But
yeah, we had all kinds. It was kind of funny. Fort Campbell is, I don't know about now, but back when I was in, was notorious for reusing buildings, repurposing buildings. The old hospital, the new hospital got built. The old hospital got turned into the NCO Academy. But it's an old hospital for a reason. It's a creepy ass old place. Yeah. So I guess the maintenance got too high on it. So they closed it down. And for whatever reason, they still had some World War II open bay barracks still sitting over on the other side of post. They turned that in the NCO Academy, primary leadership development course.
Well, I mean, fucking we Marines did it all the time. Like my first unit that I was at, like it was like a row of fucking old Quonset huts from like Korea, and like the first one was us, the next one was I forget what they changed their name to, but like the chemical warfare guys. And then it was like the machine gunner course, and then it was like the urban assault gunner course, and then it was corporal's course, sergeant school, all the way down the fucking line. So,
well, it's funny because I think I was in the second class that went through that new building they were using.
Yeah.
So we were still painting and doing repairs to the place because since we were there, we might as well get some labor out of us, right?
Yeah.
On top of all the NCO Academy stuff they're teaching us.
Yeah.
Left, right, left, paint, up, down.
Yeah. Well, okay. So speaking of that kind of military shenanigery and the bullshit shit, and then since we're coming up somewhat to our fucking time limit, we still got 15, 20 minutes left. What books have you read that were accurate to the military experience?
Well, here, let me turn around here and point to top here. These are a pretty good example.
Well, I mean, I know that mine are, but
well, those are a pretty good example. But
I'm trying not to suck my own dick on my own show, man. Come on.
Well, as far as actual books, as far as the military experience, J.F. Holmes was an infantry guy, Army infantry guy, or no, he wasn't infantry. He was artillery.
Okay.
But he's got a zombie series of all things. The Irregular Scout Team series.
Okay.
And the military stuff is dead accurate. Zombie apocalypse comes along, Newton National Guard guy ends up doing National Guard stuff, stopping a bridge and whatnot, and run a checkpoint at a bridge and zombies come along and the whole thing breaks apart, and he ends up on his own for a while, ends up on the reconstituted forces. And so they bring him back into the reconstituted forces, but it's exactly how you would expect the military to operate, and the military stuff, the chain of command, the way that things would operate as far as that goes, especially with a broken chain of command and how they reconstitute it. It just runs dead accurate. Let's see. He also writes some fiction stuff that's just more like military kind of, things. Battle damage assessment he wrote. That one's actually really accurate as far as that's what I told you about with the Chinook stuff. That's dead accurate, but the actual Army troop stuff is accurate. Then you got ones like Dan Sherman and Dan Craig and David Sherman wrote this sci-fi series called Starfist, and it's the Marines in the far future. They're in the fist units, which is basically just a brigade size units.
Yeah. And
Dave Sherman was a Vietnam era Marine. Dan Craig was a sergeant major in the Army. So they both bring their experiences in, and they're obviously using the Marine Corps as an expeditionary kind of force. Right. They've got so they're basically first in kind of shock troops.
Yeah.
The Marine Corps job, but they actually do have decent tech. They have camouflage uniforms, blaster weapons, but the actual tactics and stuff are things that Marines actually use. You can tell that Dave Sherman and Dan Craig use their actual real experience to inject into this stuff that, because, in a far-flung, because they're different planets and stuff. So they fly to different planets, just have to put down rebellions and stuff.
Yeah.
Like we used to, the United States Marine Corps and the United States Army used to do. There's Cerberus rivalry between the two. They actually have a separate air wing for the Marines. They try to base their entire science fiction story on how a real Marine unit would be set up.
Okay.
The Army units are set up like real Army units with a lot of bureaucracy that goes along with an organization that big. I've noticed the difference between the Marines and the Army. As far as that goes, there's a lot less bureaucracy in the Marine Corps.
Yeah,
I mean,
the Marine
some
Corps
of
is a lot of, hey, get this done. Isn't that violating? Get it done. Okay.
Yeah, and there's so much. There was so much of that. We can't do that because it violate this policy, or it's not so much mission first. There's still a lot of bureaucracy, and do I have to cover my own ass? Because let's be honest, CY is a career choice for a lot of officers and senior enlisted.
Yeah.
Because if they don't cover their own ass, well, so guys like that. J.R. Handley writes. J.R. Handley is an infantry guy. Was an infantry guy. Writes good, solid military science fiction. I mean, he has a series called the Sleeping Legion. So, and basically humans have been farmed. Humanity was conquered years ago, so the humans are just basically turned into a kind of a foreign legion kind of force.
Okay.
But he uses tactics that he learned in the infantry. So when you're reading the actual tactics they're using, even though the weapons are more advanced, but it was actual realistic tactics that you would expect to be used on a battlefield.
Yeah, so you got futuristic stuff going down, but at its core element, it's still locate, close with, destroy, find, fix, flake, fuck.
Exactly. Rick Partlow, it's another one. Tons of series. He's got a bunch of series set in the same universe. Yeah. They're all set in the future. He's another infantry guy. He was an infantry officer, and a lot of it, and he tries to write it as realistically as possible as far as the tactics and strategy are concerned. I mean, obviously you've got to take some liberties as far as, you're going to take liberties with, science fiction stuff, because the units aren't going to be the same, or you'll have, you'll have unrealistic portrayals of,
right.
Because, if a 100-pound woman is not going to take on some 200-pound dude and wreck face.
Right. But
if you're injected with nanites.
Yeah.
Unless they're injected with nanites, now they're super strong and, realistic physics.
Yeah.
You can get around realistic physics by adding fantastical elements.
Right. Which, people will fucking blame that, not blame it, but refer to it as a crutch, but it's nah, it's a story building element. It's there to make the story more enjoyable,
Well, there's John, I don't know if you've ever read any of Jack Campbell's Lost Sleep books.
They're on my list, but I haven't actually read them yet.
Well, he uses a lot of the ideas. He uses real physics in space battles. He was a fleet warfare guy. So he has several military series under his Jack Campbell pen name and his real name, which is John Henry.
Yeah.
He wrote a series called Jag. It's basically called Jag in Space, is what it's known by. Basically or a little in the future, we've got ships and stuff in space, but the guy is basically the ship's legal officer.
Yeah.
Because the George job of being, you're now the legal officer.
Yeah.
You have any I took the course in the academy, but I'm not a lawyer. That kind of shit. And he's had a couple series like that, but he uses actual physics, and I love the idea behind the story was the lost hero. This war's drug on for 100 years between the Syndicate worlds and the Alliance, and the war has just basically come down to a war of attrition. Everybody charges forward, bangs heads together, destroys ships, and whoever's got the most ships at the end wins.
Yeah.
So there's no tactics anymore. There's no strategy. They just rush in. Well, this guy was in the very first battle when they got jumped at some spaceport, a convoy, and he's now the hero. He's been mythologized into a hero because he basically blew up his ship to take out the attackers.
Yeah.
And he gets crew escape, but his pod was damaged, and they find him 100 years later in cryo sleep. And they're going to sneak attack the Syndicate base because they've got the key to their hypernate get or whatever it was. And
yeah.
So it turns out to be a trap, and they get stopped, and so they're all about to be wiped out. But now this hero from legend, Blackjack Geary, is going to come rescue them. But of course, they've come to the point where they literally vote on command decisions. All the ship's commanders have to approve the command decisions. No admiral would make a decision without taking a vote. He says, no, that's not how I operate, and that's not the regulations. So here's how we're going to do this.
Yeah.
We're going to move your ships here because he actually remembers fleet tactics from when he went to the academy.
Yeah. Way back in the day.
Yeah, way back 100 years ago when they actually had tactics and strategy.
Yeah, no, see that kind of stuff. Like I'm not, as an author, I'm not above cheating on that stuff. So no spoilers on this. I don't know if you've started reading my fourth book yet.
I haven't yet.
But there's a part in it where they're talking about something that happened that is in the real world physically impossible, right? And one of the characters is like, yeah, how do they do that anyway? And then the way I explain it in the book is another character goes, I'm a Lance Corporal. I don't fucking know, dude. It just works.
Well, then again, you're talking about a series that has green aliens from space.
Yeah.
And the legend and the Chronicles of Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
I'm like, because I swear, when I was reading the first book, I'm like, why does this all sound familiar? Because I like mythology.
Yeah.
But I was never really all that much into Babylonian mythology. I wasn't super familiar with it. I knew the basics of Gilgamesh and Enkidu.
Yeah.
But I'm like, why does this sound familiar? Because, if it had been Greek or Roman or Egyptian, I would have been, and even some of the Slavic and Norse, I'd have been right there. But This one, like, it's familiar and it's nagging me at the back of the head. But I'm like, and then I go through it and I'm like, oh my God, I got it now. And I was just like, yes, now I see how it is.
Well, I mean, I made it super meta where, like, at the end of it, like, Hank reads it. He's like, holy fucking shit. Although what I think personally, like, because, like, my books have a lot of sci-fi fantasy shit in it. And a lot of people like to laud it for its, fucking, I guess, military accuracy. But what I think's the most accurate thing in it at all is where Hank decides that he's got to go get this fucking knowledge. And the only way to get this knowledge is to go to this fucking bookstore. But it's like 9 a.m. and he can't leave until like after evening formation. And then he gets stuck in traffic. And then, yeah. But speaking of that, though, since we're almost at wrap up time, two quick ones for you.
Sure.
While you're reading and doing your book reviews and all that, what is your favorite and what is your favorite genre or kinds of books to read, and which ones? And let's go with that one first.
I mean, I like pretty much any sci-fi or fantasy. I mean, I don't know what it is. I've always liked epic fantasy.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always liked the idea of quests and going to find this or that, or stop the bad guy. I'm not one of those ones. I don't like broken endings. I'm not real big on broken endings. If it's done for a purpose and it's well written, I can handle it. But I like a fact where I know the good guys are going to win, right? With struggle. I don't want to just hand it to them, right? And if some die on the way, that's part of the story. But I like the bad guy losing. Even if he takes a good chunk out with him or causes, I like that idea. Same with science fiction. I like a story with like some galactic despot that gets taken down by the plucky underdog Han Solo type.
Yeah. All right. And second one, is there a genre or a kind of book that you kind of hate reading, but you do it anyway for the name of, I'm going to review this book, damn it.
It's more of a subgenre.
Okay.
It's more the kind of, I mean, it can be done well, but there's a big subgenre of grimdark. This where every character is an unlikable asshole, an irredeemable asshole, and you're like, if they all died now, I wouldn't give two shits.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple that are just, and I call them the usual suspects.
Okay.
Where these books that everybody just jizzes all over themselves, praising constantly, just overwhelmingly praising these books like they're the greatest thing since the Bible written.
So Twilight.
That's YA, and that's a whole other ball of wax. That's just, I try and avoid most YA. There's some good, but the romantic YA is just not my thing. And I've had some opportunities to review some YAs, and I'll tell somebody straight up, it's just not. I can tell you right now, it's not going to be for me.
Yeah.
So you're just wasting your time if you want me to review it. But there's a few authors that just, your character, and a lot of times it's one of those things where they have to they get a case of the stupids to move the plot along.
Yeah.
They do things that are completely stupid and unrealistic or against the characters, against the personality they set up to move the plot along. Why? You've already made your character an unlikable, irredeemable asshole. Why am I going to keep reading this? I mean, I don't mind a character as an asshole. God knows I served in the military, United States Army, for God's sakes. God knows I've known my share of assholes and been the asshole.
Right.
But if I don't care if your character's going to die, why am I going to keep reading your book? In fact, if I hope your character dies, I hope your entire cast of characters dies, and that the bad guy wins.
I am only reading this in the hopes of your fucking failure. God damn it.
Yeah, and the worst example of that, I'm not going to name names because I don't torpedo anybody, but even if I don't particularly like the person or the book, had this weird prose style where it's choppy sentences, little 3 and 4 word sentences throughout the entire book. Just choppy, weird prose. And this book is getting praised by all these people. And I'm like, this book sucks. The characters suck. And this prose style sucks.
That's the worst.
And the fight scenes, which are supposed to be so ultra realistic, to who? I mean, if I want a fight scene, I'll go to Tim Markwitz.
Yeah.
Fantastic author. Did MMA, trained MMA for years.
Yeah.
Knows his fight stuff. His fights are ultra realistic as far as hand-to-hand stuff. If he's talking about putting a rear naked choke on, he's actually talking the details of it and how long it would take to kill somebody, and puts it in there as part of the story so that it makes sense.
Yeah.
Then you get this kind of swinging the sword, and that's, just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, on the opposite end of that, she's not really active anymore. Like, she looked like she was going to get big, and then she kind of just I don't know, fell off the fucking face of the earth. But indie author named Sydney Mann, she wrote a book called The Darkwood, and fantasy sci-fi. So it's on an alien planet, but it's more like a medieval fantasy, and the story was good, but her prose and diction was so fucking poetic that if I hated the characters, which I didn't, and I hated the plot, which I didn't, I'd have read every word anyway, just because of how beautifully she fucking painted it. So that's my recommendation for the night. But on that, can you tell the good people of the internet where they could find you, your blog, and if they want to investigate your reviews a little bit more, where they can go to be directed in your lane?
Sure. I actually review on my own blog, which is the bookwyrmspeaks.blogspot.com. And I also contribute to fanfiaddict.com and beforewegoblog.com. I review on all 3 sites, although the first one is mine. And hey, if you're an author and you want to review, I am known as the easy A of book reviewing. I have a pretty good track record of reviewing books that I know I'll like. And if I don't like, and once I see a premise, I have a pretty good idea if I'll like it or not. So you don't have to worry about being torpedoed. If there's something if your book isn't for me, I will talk to you before I ever write a 1-star review tanking and trying to torpedo you. That's not my gig. I think I am more of a book recommender than a book reviewer. There's just too many people out there with too much negativity trying to wreck people's careers. That's not me. I want to see indie authors succeed and traditional authors succeed too. If you write a good story, keep writing it, and I'm more than happy to try and support that.
All right. Well, hey, Steve, thanks for coming on. We'll have to do it again sometime, and you have a good night.
You too. Hope I didn't bore you too much.
Oh, yeah.
All right. You take care.